What's up guys, and welcome to this short video on how to find a loot spot in PUBG Competitive. Today we will be looking at Battlegrounds.party, which is a really nice data mined website that has a ton of information about PUBG. Today we will be using the map section of the website, and we head up here to map, and we'll start off with Erangel. So when we want to find a loot spot on Erangel, you can either try and look at how pros play, or you can try and find your own way. There are some key things to finding a good loot spot, and that is, number one, you need to have at least 15 cars or car spawns, so vehicles. Like taking a look at some of these roads, like you want to have an abundance of cars, like down here in the farm area. There's an abundance of car spawns, but it's only 32% spawn rate on these cars. So having about 15 cars will have you more than enough needed for actually like getting through and getting 4 cars for your team. Something else to look out for is the esports cars. So the esports Dasha and the esports US. They're also scattered across the map, and yeah, just try and find a spot that gives you optimal amount of cars and optimal amount of... Oftentimes these esports spawns are a bit hot, so you might need to land and grab them. For example, this one here next to the shelter, esports US, that's in the cross section here. It's very congested sometimes because Yasnaya Poliana team might jump for that car and try and go to Yasnaya, or depending on the plane. So make sure that you prioritize grabbing your esports spawn and securing that. Other than cars, we want to be looking at loot. So this website has amazing these little bubbles. Shows you how much loot is here and which types of loot. So like normal loot, military loot, crates. Crates are these ones over here, where the loot's on top of the crate. Tables, that's the picnic tables. Shacks are shacks, and spawn island is non-existent, because there's nothing on the spawn island anymore. Don't be fooled by that. But basically, what you need in order to be fully looted is between 60 and 70 of these possible loot spawns. So looking at a compound like this one, that's 33 loot spawns in total, and 4 out here on the shack. Not all of these spawn loot. It's a weighted loot distribution, so sometimes you'll find more loot than others, and sometimes you'll find less loot. So that's the beauty of PUBG, it's the RNG. But basically, you want to look for a good 60 to 70 loot spawns per person. And now looking at the Miramar one as well, the same things go for Miramar. You want to have at least some esports spawns, some cars, and you want to look for spots that have some good or decent loot. Well, Miramar has a lot of loot, so if you and your team sits down one day and just maps out and looks at, okay, if we take these sets of compounds or the city or whatever, we will be fine for loot spawns. And if you're completely blank on where to go, then I would suggest hopping into a pro game or a scrim game on twire.gg. On Twire, you can find both tournaments and scrims. So let's hop over to scrims here. And let's take a look at an MEA scrim. So we press MEA scrim, go to matches, and you can open match from here. You can kind of just look at, okay, how does people actually split these things? Look at Fago here. They're the ones that won the game. They have people scattered a bit on all of these compounds. So we can take a look at how much loot they actually get. The guy that loots this compound down here, the left side, gets about the 60 loot spawns. And they have a guy over here, 60 as well. This over here is about 70, and the guy looting power grid is going to be stacked. Keep in mind that different loot spots and locations will have different types of loot. That's differing on where you land, especially It can be seen on the Erangel. If you look at military base here, the only place on military base that has normal loot is the factory, and that's where smoke grenades, flashbangs, and all the other utility spawn regularly. The rest on military base is military spawns, so the amount of grenades or smokes or whatever is a lot lower. So it's a good idea to have your guy that loots the factory stack up on utility. This also goes for other places, of course. There's an abundance of scopes in some places, and in other places there's not a lot of scopes, but a lot of other things. So everything is RNG as well. So don't be afraid if you have bad loot in 1 or 2 games in a row. It's alright, it happens, and sometimes you'll get gifted loot. But that is going to be it for this little loot spot guide. If you enjoyed this kind of content and want some more, then let me know in the comments what type of aspect of the game you want me to talk a little bit more about and go a little bit more in depth on. Lastly, very importantly, if you're playing scrims and there's a better team, or like if you're playing EU scrims, there's a tier 1 team on a location, remember, don't hot drop them because you will get striked and you will end up getting banned.